We are with Holly Darcy of HD Fitness LLC. You can find her online at hdfitnesscoach.com. And Holly, tell us a little bit about your business. What is it you actually do?
Yeah, so right now, primarily, I work completely online, remotely. I work mostly with women, and really, I'm just passionate about helping them use and leverage fitness, movement, nutrition, and lifestyle practices and adjustments just to get into the best shape of their lives. Honestly, I think that a lot of women come into motherhood and they think that that's sort of it, or this is just for the next 10, 20 years of their life, that their fitness and their health just sort of has to go by the wayside. I can tell you in my experience, it's been quite the opposite. And so I'm really passionate about helping to change that mindset in the women that I work with, whether they have never lifted weights before and they are just starting their fitness journey, or maybe they have an athletic background from the past and they're sort of getting back into it, or if they have goals for competition and in some fashion. So just kind of meeting that person where they are and really helping to help them evolve while also raising a family and nurturing that side of their lives.
So you're an online coach and trainer. Do you do any one-on-one in-person type stuff, or it's all virtual?
That's definitely how I got into fitness coaching. Right now, I'm pretty much completely online. I will do in-person sort of hybrid style training I have a couple local clients, and we'll do that sort of on a case by case basis. I don't have any regular in-person training clients at the moment.
Okay. So it's a digital business. So very 2020,
Yeah.
right? So that's pretty cool. And what's interesting is you have been willing, and I think most coaches, trainers struggle with this. You've been willing to say, hey, I'm going to define my niche market as women and not get stuck trying to be that coach or trainer for everybody. How did you decide you wanted to focus on mostly women as clients?
Yeah, and that's a good question. And mostly women and mostly moms. I mean, if you look at the base of my clientele, it's largely, I mean, I can get even more specific, moms in their early to late 30s. They usually have two or three children. Often, like I mentioned, they are either just getting into their fitness journeys and kind of wanting to lift weights for the first time, or they've done it in the past and they're wanting to make sure that they can resume that in a safe way. So even more specific than just women, that's kind of where most of the people I work with fit into. So how did I get into that? I don't even know where to start. I think that lots of different experiences, but I think that I probably gravitate toward this group of people because that's my story, right? Like that's what I understand so uniquely. And I like to think that a lot of the women I work with are maybe just two or three, where I was 2 or 3 or 10 years ago in my fitness journey. And not that they're going to be coaching, but sort of where I was in my athleticism. I think that some of my professional experiences have helped. I at one time managed a gym. So some of that experience I think helped with my mindset around marketing and that sort of thing. I've had a lot of mentors to help me and kind of, lead me. And I think it's just been out of necessity. At first, I did and could help everyone because I was just getting started. But now I've gotten to the point where this is my full-time job. And so I kind of know in the first 30 seconds of talking to somebody if they're going to be a good fit. And that's not to say that I can't help others. I do. I actually have a handful of male clients. I work with some people who are never interested in becoming mothers. And then I work with some women and men who are older and in different, seasons of their life with adult children. So, yeah, does that answer your question?
It does. And there's tremendous opportunity by a business owner. And it's not just in the fitness space, it's really most or many spaces in being willing to drill deep and clearly define a target niche market to serve. Looking at what you said, mom, late 30s, 2 to 3 kids, new to fitness, where you were a couple years ago. That's pretty clearly defined. And what's nice about that is you don't get lost. You're
Right.
you're not going to get lost among all of the other coaches and trainers online because every potential client isn't your ideal client. Not to say that that take the money for the coaches and trainers out there. If somebody really wants to work with you, if they're not within your ideal client definition, well, that doesn't say you don't work with them. But the opportunity for most businesses is to do what Holly has done and be willing to say, though I could train, coach, work with everybody, I'm going to find just a sliver of everybody. And I'm really going to become an expert at that.
Then when people are looking, like when the person that, I primarily serve, when they're ready and they're looking for some support, they know, like, and in 2022, it is becoming such a saturated market, and you have to be able to stand out. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to especially if you're primarily online. And so, I mean, I know that, somebody I may connect with someone, and I've had this, I actually just this happened to me last week. I may connect with somebody, either locally or online, and we just, we converse, we just literally just talk and keep connecting, and they'll reach out to me 2, 3, 4 years down the road for coaching. So even if you connect, you just never know. But when they're ready and when they need that support that you offer, they're going to know exactly who to go to.
It and would you say that part of that is because they see you as an expert in that area, not just as a trainer or coach, but when they think of Holly, they think Holly, mom, late 30s, 2 to 3 kids, ready to start fitness or ready to restart fitness, and not just Holly, some trainer that they met a couple years ago.
Right. So, there it speaks again to that, idea of such being such a saturated market, because at this point, like, we all, there are so many wonderful quality trainers out there and some that aren't, but there's so many great people out there that can help. But again, like, I'm not necessarily the right coach for every single person, and I know that. And so, and I think also, like, I know for myself, when I was looking for a coach, like, I have my own unique circumstances and my own unique roadblocks and my own personality, and just we all vibe with different people. And so I think, just putting myself out there, and also, like, maybe selfishly, like, if I'm talking to the person who's going to be the right fit, that means that I'm also not attracting the people that aren't going to be a great fit. Because if I'm working with a lot of people who aren't going to be a great fit for me, that's going to be very draining and not very sustainable from a coaching standpoint, for my business practice and for my personal,
And
mindset.
that's a struggle a lot of coaches and trainers make is they believe that they are the best trainer for everyone in every circumstance, and it takes, I think, kinda some age, wisdom, experience to realize that's just not true. Though, yes, you may be able to work with and train and coach any population, but there's only gonna be a couple that to use your words, you vibe with and that you can really be great at working with. The rest are just, yeah, they're stealing your energy. They're stealing your time, and they're not helping you be a better you and be better at serving your ideal clients and customers.
Yep.
And that too, when I looked at your Instagram, we first connected, and I looked at your website, it was obvious that you had already identified some of these things. And these are things when we look at clients we work with that we really have to get them to work through. Like you don't want to, for example, looking at the gym space, and I owned a large commercial gym. If you want to not make a lot of money, open a large commercial gym and try and be all things to all people. You'll never have the resources to be good at everything. You just won't. And you've identified that. So I think there's a huge take home for people that are out there in the coaching space. Like if you want to be good, take a look at Holly's website, and I'll share the link, but it's hdfitnesscoach.com, and look at how she's positioned herself. It's not as, hey, I'm a trainer for everyone. It's, here's my target audience. If you really want to work with me and you're outside of that, great. But here's my ideal people. And I love that you've been willing to do that and you've identified it.
Oh, thanks, Ray. I appreciate that.
And so did you kind of just through trial error keep finding that the more you went down this road, the more the majority of your clients fit in that bucket? Or did you have a coach, a business coach, or somebody in the business world say, you know, Holly, you may find that you do better if you just focus on this one slice of the market?
Kind of a mixture of both. Out of experience, like, when I first got started as a trainer, and I was training people in person. So I was training everyone,
Everybody.
and that's the thing is that I think that being able to really specialize or create a niche, I think it's important as a very, very new business owner to have that sort of in the back of your mind and just be looking for that pattern of who do you tend to be gravitating toward? Who do you tend to be like having the best success with? Because you're speaking, in a certain way to everybody, but when you're really talking to that person like that you vibe with and they're just a good fit, like you're naturally going to, they're just going to take off with their progress. And so noticing those patterns, but I think that when you're first getting started out, you do just really need to gain experience. You don't, it's I think having a niche in the back of your mind is important, but you may not have that luxury, right? So I think some of that has just been out of pure time, experience, practice. Then I have had a couple of really great mentors. One guy, his name is Greg. He's somebody that was the owner of the gym that I managed and started out coaching for. He's actually where I got my start coaching group classes and eventually managing the gym as a general manager. I did work with somebody in 2020 through a good chunk of 2020 who was somebody that honestly I heard him on a podcast and he was somebody a business coach and his name's Matthew Park. He's great. Shout out to Matthew Park. He was somebody who I really appreciated listening to him because I really kind of connected with and was gravitated toward because he was a father himself with young children. He just really came across as someone who cared. And then when I met with him, I mean, it was none of that was a front. I mean, that's just really how the guy is, and he's great. Him for a time, and then we'll probably get into this a little bit more, but I do have somebody that helps me to sort of take my values and my message and really spread that in a really like cohesive way with my marketing now, and her name's Lindsay, and so she helps me. I run the business side of it, but she helps me a little bit with some of my marketing and putting my brand.
And there's two things there. A lot of people underestimate the time piece. I always call it with clients tuition. Like you have to pay the tuition. You have to accumulate some of those experiences. You have to begin to understand where your interests are in the market, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy. It's easier to take a wheel that is round and rolls really well and plug it into your business and get rolling than have to go out and figure out, should the wheel be round? What about a square wheel? What about a triangle? In business, that typically means hiring a consultant or a coach. And a lot of the successful people somewhere along the line have probably accumulated some experience. So they spent the time and then they probably made an investment that allowed them to take someone else's wheel and get rolling instead of constantly wasting time and losing out on opportunities. And it sounds like, you've had an opportunity with at least three different individuals to get some help, to get some advice, and maybe take their wheel and get rolling.
And I am completely, I mean, that is something I am very, very much believe in is that much like continuing education, if you're seeking out a mentor or another, like a business coach or something like that, you have to, at some point, maybe, sooner or later, at some point, I truly believe that as a business owner, you have to invest money in order to make money. And when I look at like my annual expenses with my business and everything, like, when we're doing our taxes, it's kind of like, oh man, like that's a good chunk of money. But those are my systems. Those are my support people. Like those are my things that help me keep that wheel rolling, smoothly instead of running into these like rocks and, potholes along the way.
And it's not that you couldn't figure out how to navigate the rocks and potholes. You
When I
you
did,
you could, but it's just faster.
Yes. As you start to grow too, you get to a point where you realize you just cannot do it all, and that looks different, I think, for everyone. I think just being willing to ask for help or seek out, whether it's educating yourself or working with somebody or whatever. I mean, so many things I can think of, like things that I've had to figure out as far as like how to, work Excel and how to get my payment processing, set up. And my website right now is in its second iteration. My first iteration with my website looked awesome. I've made some changes to it over the years, but it's everything. And I've just, a lot of it's self-taught. And then, you know, when it's kind of the right time and the right move, it's like, okay, let me see if hiring somebody to help me with this for a period of time is
Now, and do you see value in having done some of that for yourself from the standpoint of being able to have an intelligent conversation to vet that person you're looking to for help? So you have enough experience to know, okay, these are the things I need. These are important for my individual business instead of just relying on somebody to just tell you the way it is.
oh yeah. And even with the people that I've worked with, I mean, they'll tell you like I know my business. And so there have been things where they, maybe advised or recommended or suggested that I kind of just said, no, I don't think so. Or maybe this isn't the right time. Or, hey, let's table that and let's come back to it, in 6 months or something like that. So I think, yeah, you have to know it's like, you probably said this maybe, but it's like your business is like your baby, and so you have to protect it. And at the same time, be willing to listen to others, and it's okay also to say this isn't the right time for that, or I don't think that's the right fit. But I think being willing and open to try new things is important.
You have to have some experience. Like I remember hiring a marketing and ad company years ago. Initially, I just kind of, hey, this is what they said. So they're the experts. That's what we did. And then I looked at it. I'm like, this doesn't make sense for my business. And I had to be willing to tell them like this is wrong. Like I know you are in this space. And I know this is a service you provide, but for my business, it's not right. And that goes back to having had some time to understand and be able to at least think critically about what you're being told or what you're being sold.
That, and if you don't know, like if you didn't know your business at its core and your
Yeah.
values and the things, even as a business owner, like you have your business, but then you have the rest of your life too. And the thing, they all have to meld together and work, So yeah, if you don't know that,
Yeah, yeah, or you'll
in any which direction, and it may
and
not.
one will suffer or one won't. And I see new people that are new to business trying to get started that sometimes they want to outsource too much. And there's some things like at least until you have some experience, you just can't. I find tremendous value getting on the to this day, getting on the phone with leads and prospects. That's where you learn what the market really needs. You can't just say, well, I'm going to be a business owner. I'm going to outsource the sales process.
No.
You can't. Like you have to be involved and down the road and you can build a system and teach others to run the system, but really you have to invest some time in that.
Yeah, absolutely. There are certain parts of my business that nobody else can do at this point right now. Where
What would be like the what do you think the top piece of your business today is that nobody can do right now but Holly?
So right now, when people come to work with me, they want my expertise. They want to be able to work with me personally right now. It's not to say that I won't ever have an assistant coach or other staff, in that way. But right now, if somebody comes to me for a workout, workout programming, or they want to make some changes to body composition, they want a nutrition plan, they want to be able to check in with me weekly, those things. So like my check-in process, nobody else can do that. They can't, where they're, checking in, I'm making adjustments to their plan, giving them recommendations, or analyzing that side of things. From the programming aspect, not to say that I couldn't hire another coach to make a workout plan and to program for another client, but those clients are going to be working with that coach. So I think just those things where it requires that personalization for that client, for that individual. Those are the things. And like you said, an initial consult or an initial sales call. Like I would never have like my virtual assistant or a person who does marketing like get on the phone with somebody for me to try to get that person to work with me. That just wouldn't make sense.
Years ago, I had to go through when I had my club, which was everybody wanted to work with me. I'm one person and I have a family and I have everything else that goes with a brick and mortar. It took a little bit of time, but eventually we systemized things and we were able to do it so my staff could deliver the same quality experience as I could.
Yep.
And the customers started to no longer walk in the door and ask for just me. But initially I couldn't do that because I didn't know what worked and I didn't know what didn't work and I didn't know how to do things or anything else. But
Sort of a training thing, a culture thing, and also a leap of faith for the business owner. So I think that, what I mean by that is that the business owner needs to, first of all, recognize, hey, if I really want to keep growing, if I'm in a position where I really need to, offload some of this, it's time to hire another person, to help with this. For example, if, I was going to hire an assistant coach. So that just in and of itself, like you have to be able to set your ego aside and recognize like, okay, I may not be able to clone myself, but can I train someone to do a great job in their own way and serve, their clients? So I think that like the training side of things, that leap of faith, and then that culture of, so like if I was to hire an assistant coach, if I was in that position where that made sense, it's important for me as the business owner and the marketing side of things to be hyping that person up just as much, so that if somebody's looking for a coach and they're coming to HC Fitness, they know that no matter who they work with, they're going to get a good quality, coaching.
that's right. And we taught it, I taught it to the staff, and then my staff taught it to the staff. And I say this today all the time. It's like a Happy Meal at McDonald's provides the same experience anywhere in North America.
Yep.
A box, a burger, a fry, a drink, a toy. And even if you don't want the fries, you want apple slices, you still get the fries because McDonald's knows that that entry level employee that's working their first job can execute the same system with great consistency and quality control as long as you don't go and keep making changes to the system. So we eventually broke our training down. And my biggest fear was these people aren't me. How are they going to deliver the same level of service? But it's if you create a system, you can teach the system and people can run that. And then the relationship, we maintain the relationship with me in the facility, not the individuals. We used to do the individuals, and when individuals leave, the clients leave with them.
Yep.
So we call that like when we work with clients, we call it protect the castle. And the castle's your business. And you are queen of the castle, and it's your responsibility to make sure that somebody doesn't leave with a bunch of bricks from the front wall
Right.
and then go build their own.
Absolutely. Yep.
So
Voice language. I totally agree.
so how did you arrive? So your profile on Instagram is good, and that's Hollyway Darcy at Hollyway Darcy, correct?
Just
That's
my
your
name.
Instagram. Like your Instagram's pretty good, better than most.
Thanks.
In two lines of text, it explains who your target ideal customer is. There's a link that sends them over to your website, and there's a convenient button to book a consult. How'd you arrive at that? Who told you that, or did you do that on your own?
Think I've been on Instagram since 2011. I'd have to go back and look. I mean, anybody who goes to my profile, they can scroll back. Really, with as far as like marketing on social media, that's just been a lot of trial and error, playing around with things, noticing patterns of like what people, how are people reaching me? So are they DMing me? Are they going through my website? Sometimes gentle nudges, if somebody does message me on Instagram, I may say, hey, this is awesome. I definitely want to talk with you next week. Here's, my link. Check this out. Trial and error. And probably Matthew, who I worked with in 2020, he kind of affirmed that. I think I was already doing a lot of that and we spoke about that, but he gave me some ideas about how to refine that a little bit more and make sure that if somebody was coming across my profile or if they were already connected with me, that, if they were seeing that information, that they kind of just, you have to make it like as easy as possible.
Right, and most don't. Like, right off the bat, that's one of the things I noticed on your Instagram profile. Most people don't, and if they do have a training or coaching business, it's like their logo or something, and it says nothing about who it is that they serve and who their ideal customer is. It's one of the easy gimmies, like, for those of you listening to this, like, one of the first things you can do is fix your profile. Your profile should say exactly who you are and who you serve. And there should be a real easy way to stop the scroll and give people a way to reach out and contact you.
In my opinion, and tell me what you think. I think you have to do it in your target um, client's language. So I
Yes.
people, hey, I've got a master's degree in education. I have my yes, I'm CPT. I have this and this and that. I've got, all this blah 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 acronyms. I don't care. You know,
No.
I mean, some people like, they may look, and I will tell somebody, hey, check out my credentials. I've got them all listed on my website for anybody who's interested in that. I actually work with several coaches myself. So some do really care about that. But I think, if somebody comes across my page and they're going to be the right fit for me, if they happen to stumble upon my feed and they see that at the top of my profile, my bio, like perfect. I want to make sure I friend this person or I want to make sure, I follow them or well, let me check out their website, just making it as easy as possible in their language.
Yeah,
The
people
people I'm working with aren't all coaches or trainers. Far from that.
no. And people wanna know that you care, and they wanna see, and that's the next thing. So we tell clients, fix your profile, and then especially on social media, don't make your content about you. That doesn't lead to people hiring you. They wanna see people like them whose problems went away because of your service. And that, we can call it social proof, we can say testimonial, any of that type stuff. But a lot of people in fitness, one more photo of them working out, one more photo of them with their shirt off, one more photo of them in a bathing suit. You might get likes and follows, but it's not gonna turn into revenue.
Yeah. That's been my experience is that side of things will get engagement and you'll get follows. And then for me, it's kind of that follow through of, hey, I'm going to go check out that person's. And, if anybody's listening to this, I will go back and like check out that person who just followed me. And, I will, if it seems like somebody that I want to connect with, that, maybe I want to learn more about them and see if there's some way I can help them, I might follow them back or, check out like, hey, you're also into lifting. Like, this is really cool. Tell me like what have you been working on? I see you learning how to use a barbell. Like, have you ever done a competition? Ever thought about it? That's been definitely something that because I started out Instagram was just by like personal diary. It was not a business thing. Then kind of an evolving thing where it's important for me to share both sides. And I do have people that tell me, I love seeing your bodybuilding journey. Or I love when you share about your powerlifting. So I think it's some of that is to provide that inspiration and that motivation. And for some people, that is going to draw them in, but not always. So I think you have to be able to provide a mix of content.
Like, the most engaging content is always like, it'd be a picture of you and your kids doing something on, like, a holiday.
Yep.
That will get more attention than anything. It's because people wanna see that the business owner is a real person, again, just like them. "Hey, she's just like me. She's a mom, she has kids, she has the same struggles I do being at that station in life." And then, "Oh, look at these other images and look at this other content where she's solved the problems of someone just like me."
Showing client testimonials, client case studies, infographics, establishing that authority, like, just across the board. So I try to be thoughtful about providing a variety of content, not just one type of, yeah, sure, I could post pics of me in a bikini. I live in Hawaii. Like, I'm sure I'd get a lot of likes and follows from that, but that's not going to be great for my business.
And that's where people end up, they get very lopsided. They'll have 10 or 12,000 followers, but they're the wrong followers.
Yeah.
They're not people that are ever gonna spend money. What are you actively doing to attract new business?
So I have a pretty consistent marketing strategy. My marketing gal, Lindsay, she's awesome and she helps me out with periodic content and just sharing about things that like I'm seeing as trends and patterns and weekly check-ins with my current roster of clients, things that I'm thinking about or experiencing or have noticed and kind of sharing about that. And then she's really great on the technology side of things. I'm okay with it. It just takes me a really long time. And so I'm able to like send her my videos and send her information, and she puts it into something that really looks great with my branding and kind of matches. So she helps me with that, and then she will help me with posting twice a week, and then I fill in from there. And just sometimes I just share whatever I want to, or sometimes it's like a personal. I share about my vacation recently and things like that. Made an update on my bodybuilding post show today, and then sometimes it's more informational. So Lindsay's kind of she helps me focus on the parts of my business that I most enjoy and that are like the best use of my time. Because if I am only focused or so much focused on just making content, that's taking away from energy and I mean a good half of my client base, like they have all access communication with me. So like we can hop on the phone, we can text message. Like my retaining my current clients, like that's the most important thing. So it is important to bring on new leads, but I can't only be focused on making content. You know what
So
I mean?
that's intuitive too, the client retention. A lot of businesses look at, well, we would like to grow. We would like to increase our sales and make more money. Well, fantastic. But they do it in spite of the current happy customers they already have. And it's far easier to generate more revenue and make more money by serving the people that already love you than it is to try and find more people that might be interested in doing business with you and might down the road become a customer. So it's kind of cool that you recognize that. And yes, like you're in the business of coaching and training online. You're not in the business of creating video content as say like a video expert. So it's one of those things where your time is better spent serving your customers and your money is better spent having somebody like a Lindsay take care of the audio video side of it for you.
And to be clear, like I enjoy making content. It's just, when I'm looking at the amount of time, I have two kids. I have to run a house. Like my husband's active duty in the military. Like he could, there are times where he's working all weekend or he's just gone for months at a time. And so for me as a mom and a business owner, like it is all about managing my time appropriately and doing like what's gonna have the biggest value. And so I always like to say or like to think like retaining somebody, an existing client, is going to be less expensive, from a financial standpoint, but also from an energy standpoint. If I'm constantly onboarding new clients and having a lot of churn where I'm constantly losing clients, and it's like you can't ever really grow. So I really work hard, and I think if you ask me, my clients, that you can tell that I work really hard to keep them on and to help support them through their different seasons of life. I have people I've been working with continuously since 2018.
And there again, the long-term value of a good customer is really priceless. There's clients I've had, some business clients I've had off and on going back over 15, 16 years. And I know them, if we need to get something done, it's easy. There's not a lot of wasted time, energy, effort because we already know
They
what
trust you.
the yeah, and I understand their business and they understand what I bring to the table and it works. So for those checking this out that are new to business, don't forget about your existing customers. And we teach it, especially in clubs, especially people that have brick and mortar training gyms or even commercial gyms, studios, whatever name you want to apply. It's revenue per member. It's revenue per customer. It's revenue per client. And anything you can do to bring that up pays tremendous dividends at the end of the year when you're looking at your P&L and you're looking at your profit and you're looking at how much money the business made and you have for yourself.
And you do that by offering more value, whether
Right.
that's, offering a new service or, providing an add-on to their plan or something like that, adding a monthly accountability call or something like that, that makes sense for you as the business owner. But yeah, adding more value. And if you can increase that revenue per client, that's going to be better all around because they're going to be having a better experience. They're going to be getting more of you, and you're not going to be, as the business owner or the coach or whatever, the trainer, spread so thin amongst so many people. Quality over quantity, in my opinion.
Yes. And that goes back to clearly defining the market you serve, having a niche, and then making that your focus. And then, sure, somebody comes along and they're outside of your ideal customer and they really want to work with you, we'll take their money and provide the service, but don't spend time trying to attract more of that person.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, like some of those people that I brought somebody on last week actually, and it's a male. He's active duty. I always kind of think to myself, I wonder how that works, or what is it about my services, or me as a coach that they know that I'm going to be the right fit. But some of those people are my best clients. And so, it's not necessarily that if they're outside of my niche that, I don't want to say like take your money, because a lot of times it's a great coaching relationship and really positive for both of us. But again, it just has to be the right vibe and the right fit. And on the flip side too, like just because I may do a consultation with a mom who's in her 30s and she's got two kids, and we may realize like, hey, this just isn't going to be a good fit. So sometimes there are those, I think times outside of the niche where it can work really, really well.
And for sure, without question. But it's when the business owner starts to think, well, maybe I should focus on some more male active duty clients. Then it's like if you stood up right now and tried to run to your right and your left at the same time, you will go nowhere.
Absolutely. Yes.
What about ad spend? Are you running it? Do you do any advertising? Do you have an ad spend? So it's all organic.
I mentioned there's some things that have been on the table and have caught my eye, and I've thought about, and I've done some continuing education myself on as far as like my Facebook pixel and things like that, kind of, getting some things on the back end. No ad spend right now. Maybe later on, but right now I'm okay without it.
I like that too. And not that I would say the ad spend is bad, but if you can grow organically, I think you grow organically as long as you possibly can. Because once you start spending money, especially on current social media, we never really fully understand and know where our money went. All of the platforms give you all kinds of reporting and metrics and this and that, but are those numbers even real? We don't know. It's not like if I sent out 100 postcards and 10 people signed up because I got the postcard, it's black and white, you for sure know, but you never really know. Did Instagram really show that many people your ad? Did Facebook really do it? YouTube or Google? We don't know. So organic's great. Plus it gives you a better opportunity to understand what your ideal customers really are interested in seeing. So when the time comes to look at and explore advertising, you know what message you need to put out there.
And to that point, I think too, having, and I, mentioned this to you before our meeting, is like not having all your eggs in one bucket. So like I'm not just on Instagram. That's definitely where I spend most of my time on social media. But there are some really great groups on Facebook that I'm very involved with and really love just, you know, contributing there where I can. My local community, there's some groups that I'm part of it in real life, and I network in that way. One nice thing about being a military spouse is we're moving every 1 to 3 years. So I'm making new friends all the time. So not losing sight of that. I've done some writing for local periodicals and things like that. If there's like vending opportunities at various, pop-up events and things like that. So just I think making sure that, we don't know the future of social media or Instagram or anyone, we've seen it evolve, from MySpace to, my husband mentioned like Vine the other day. I remember Vine, and like now we have TikTok. And so I think putting
It'll
yourself.
evolve, but the process remains the same.
Oh, yeah.
It's always gonna be the same thing. It's Yeah, it'll just be a different vehicle. People want to be on every platform, and not every platform will be right for your ideal market. And there's data and demographics. You always make sure you look at the current ones that tell you what platform your ideal customer's on. But that being said, like Facebook and Facebook groups, you can't go in and just solicit people
No.
to become a customer. But you can go in as a good person that's just interested in helping, and when you've built and optimized your profile and people go to check you out, they're gonna be like, "Oh, she works with moms in their late 30s with 2 to 3." And you don't have to try and sell them on anything. They already know you're a good person because 'cause you've helped out, answered questions, and asked nothing for it. And eventually, they'll come back and check out your Instagram's the same thing. You take one look at your Instagram profile, and it's obvious who you are and who you serve.
Yeah. People are smart. Like, you can't just, like, oh, I'm this and this is what I offer. And do you want to, join me here? Pay me this much money every month. It'll be great. No, that's not how you like build trust and build a relationship with somebody. No,
And
yeah,
how many people are doing exactly that? That's the other now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with having cold outreach. I do it. That's how I connected with you. I do that all the time.
well, and how many like in-person realtors do that, knocking on doors? Like, you've got to hustle. Don't get me wrong.
But you don't show up and say, "Pay me."
Right.
That's the provide value first, and then maybe down the road, there's a opportunity that will arise, but the value comes first. Now, what are your plans to grow? Do you have any plans? We're coming up to the end of a calendar year. Are you looking at 2023? Do you have some goals already in mind, or what are you thinking?
This is a really good question. My life kind of moves in seasons depending on like where we're located and what's going on with my husband's own career. And I will tell you right now, Ray, I'm at a point where I'm about as busy as I want to be. And that's not to say that my business can't grow. It just means that I might need to, again, outsource some of that, whether that means bringing, assistant coach on and training them up, or having my virtual assistant, take on a little bit more on the system side of things from a like coaching roster standpoint. I'm also doing some graduate classes right now. So just finishing up the first semester with that. I'm very, privileged and fortunate to say like we have a dual income in my family, and so I have that option, and I realize that not everybody has that option. But right now, this past year has been a really great one in terms of steady, steady, not a lot of highs and lows that I've experienced in the past, and that's been really good.
You're blessed, you're lucky, you're all of those wonderful words, but a lot of that is the byproduct of the things that you've spent time learning, understanding, implementing, and now are doing very well.
Thank you. I appreciate you
So
saying that.
I think you have to, like, you didn't wake up and you had an optimized profile on social media. You didn't wake up and have a clearly defined niche market you wanted to serve. So that there's some deliberate effort on your part that made that possible. And that's it's great that you're in that spot, and the path forward for a lot of people always becomes, okay, well, how can I become more efficient at what I currently do? How could I serve more people? How can I systemize what I do, allow others to run the systems
Mm.
without compromising my brand and quality? So back to protecting the castle.
Yes. Yep.
And it sounds like you're getting to the point where it might be time for some new systems and maybe handing some of the systems to others so you can go and serve more,
Yeah.
which is
And
exciting.
always on the lookout for is where are things if I'm onboarding somebody, or if I'm, making, corresponding with them, or maybe nurturing leads or something like, what are some things about that system or that process that I can either automate or outsource, or make it take half the time that it's taking me right now. And so that's cool. And I find that fun, that I'm even in a position where I can recognize those patterns because it wasn't always like that. So
Now, back to time.
Yeah.
Like, that comes from time and paying attention.
I mean, a year ago, I couldn't have hopped on the phone with you. I wouldn't have had time to make this appointment. But I am now doing more work, more of a bigger client roster, and I'm making more money, and my time is more optimized, you know? So, yeah. It's
Back to the Happy Meal, right? You're finding a way to do that. We typically ask our business owners a little bit about best practices, and we like to frame and package it in the top 3 do's and don'ts in business. I know you and I talked a little bit about this already, but what would you say your top 3 do's are?
top 3 do's for business. First one is be patient. There's no such thing as an overnight success in business. So what I mean by that is, especially now in 2022, people think like if they can just go viral, or if they can just make just the perfect small group or whatever group coaching package, that they're just going to have all these people knocking on their door. And I can tell you, as somebody who has been coaching people since 2014, almost 8 years ago now, since January 2015, it's been a process. I remember having my first 3 clients. You know what I mean? I remember having where I would have 10 clients, and really, like, that was just very steady and just feeling really excited about that, and doing, and what I mean by that is like online, but also doing a lot of hybrid. I was hustling and doing a lot of in-person coaching as well. Just be patient. There's no, I mean, it takes.
So what in what you're saying is you didn't go from 3 clients to you have so many clients right now that you're at a point in a position where you don't really have time to bring more on. So there was an 7 or 8 year window.
That looks different for everyone. Keep in mind, I've moved 4 times since then, maybe 5 or 6 times. I had a baby. We also had a miscarriage during that time. We had a pandemic. So there's a lot that's happened in between that time. And my timeline is not going to look the same as everyone else's, right? But it's not just going to happen overnight. So if you're just getting started, or if you're kind of in the middle of it, realize, like, look back on your past successes and realize, like, you're probably doing a pretty good job, but just keep going. Be patient. The next one is talk to your ideal client, past, present, and future. And so what I mean by that is, like, just connect with those people. You never know the value that you're going to provide, and the connection that you're going to make for somebody now, how that may show up down the line. I mean, Ray, I've worked with several people in my coaching practice who I went to high school with, and that's kind of crazy because I don't even, like, live in that area anymore. You know what I mean? Like, so it's been really cool. You never know, like, just put yourself out there, and show people how you can help them, and provide that value that you can provide, and you may never know how that comes back around. And then the last thing I recommend doing is asking for help, seeking out mentors, or supports people, and work toward outsourcing or systematizing, like, what drains you, or what is just not in your zone of genius, or your best zone of genius. Like, I may really enjoy making content, but that is not the best use of most of my time. And so I can do parts of that. I can have, definitely contribute to how I want that to look and show up, but I'm in a position now where I can outsource a little bit more of that, and that allows me to spend more time coaching my people, which is the most important thing. So those are my 3
Nice. All right. What are the don'ts?
don'ts. This is one I mentioned earlier on, is don't put all of your eggs in one basket. And I think a lot of people learned this in the middle of the pandemic. I mean, look at all the restaurants, how so many of them were able to pivot and, offer more like better takeout services. They were able to offer food delivery, able to, where they were like serving people just out at doors, and, maybe not able to let people inside of the restaurant, but at the same time, so many restaurants ended up having closed as well. So if you're a business owner, you have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to improvise and innovate. You have to be solutions oriented. There's gonna be things, roadblocks, and things that you stumble, or you make mistakes, or that you fall down, but you have to be able to get back up, and come back stronger, and be able to change. You look like
And
you want to say.
that pivot thing is so huge. Incorporated my first business that I still own and operate today in 2001. So if you look at the last 20 years, what have we had? We've had some housing stuff. We had a recession. We had a global pandemic. Whatever you call that obstacle, it's going to happen again. So Holly kind of nailed it on the pivot thing.
And then just to kind of on that same token, like I mentioned about, maybe not necessarily being on all the different social media outlets or trying to spread yourself too thin, but showing up in different ways. Because when somebody does look you up, they may find me on Instagram, but then they're going to Google me and they're going to stumble upon my business profile where I've got a bunch of reviews there. And then they might land on my website and then they may want to see what I'm up to on Facebook, so not that I need to be, trying to like spend hours and hours and hours in all those different spots, or even like I mentioned, some of the in-person stuff. So just putting yourself out there in a way that you can be consistent with and authentic with. Then the next one I'll say is don't forget to, I think for business owners, and this one, resonates with me just as a trainer, but I think this can apply to any business owner, is don't neglect your own stress, your own health, your own fitness. This is something that I often see in new trainers. They're getting started and they're getting excited about maybe starting their own, going off on their own. Maybe they started out in a gym and they were training people there, and then they start to, want to do their own thing. But then all of a sudden, like they're training people from 5 a.m. until 8 p.m. and they're forgetting to get their own workouts in, or they're neglecting their own stress. I tripped over some stairs yesterday, and first thing I did, I'm actually going to go to urgent care tonight to have it looked at because my foot hurts. And like, if my foot hurts, then like I need to get it taken care of and looked at. And so this could be like your physical health, but also like your mental health, your spiritual health, like whatever it is. Don't be so bogged down in your business that it's your only thing. You have to be able to like make sure you're taking care of yourself. And then the last thing I would say is like, don't wait until you have everything figured out, right? This might surprise you. You mentioned my website several times. Is I did not publish my website until almost 3 years after I'd started my LLC, because I kept thinking it had to be perfect and I had to figure out it needed to just look a certain way and it just had to be just perfect and like, and that, who knows what that, could, if I would have just gotten that established back in 2015, maybe, who knows what that could have meant. But don't wait until you have everything figured out. And I see this in fitness. Like I've had people message me like, I really want to do a powerlifting competition, but I feel like I need to get stronger first. I need to make sure I hit these lifts. And I'm like, no, you're not getting paid to be in a powerlifting competition. You just go do it. You never know like what that could lead to. And in business, like you're not gonna have everything figured out. So you're gonna learn along the way through experience. I think whatever perceived failure, like if you can gain feedback from that and just apply that toward, to just take that next step forward. I think that it can apply in a lot of areas of life that you don't have to have it all figured out, but especially in business, like just execute. And then you'll figure out some of it along the way, along with asking people for help and being aware of your blind spots and things like that. But if you're thinking about like making that next move, if you're not making a move or taking that next step, like you're not moving forward.
This podcast is brought to you by smallbusinesstogrow.com, the website by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. Why reinvent the wheel? Start growing your business with best practices from industry-leading small business owners, executives, and entrepreneurs. Take their wheel, put it to work in your business, and start growing today. smallbusinesstogrow.com to learn more.